We just had an iPhone event, but guess what? Apple has some more to say.
Welcome to the All Future Podcast, where we talk all things Apple, especially this week, and tech and AI and all this different stuff. If you've subscribed, we really appreciate it. We just passed 10,000 subscribers, which was a big milestone for us. So thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying these videos, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And today we're talking about coming off of the back of Apple's event, what's coming next, and also some things that we didn't quite expect them to announce at this event.
A couple surprises in there.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of the more software focused features we weren't fully ready for them to give us, like hearing aids for the I think, is it just the AirPods Pro?
I believe
that deliver that.
Yeah.
But still, great feature that will help seemingly a lot of people. Stuff like sleep apnea coming to the Apple Watch, even Series 9. So some great features like that. I wasn't really expecting them to talk AirPods Max at this event. I expected that to just be a quiet release.
The massive AirPods Max upgrade. It was just like, oh, here's some colors and it's got USB-C now.
Yeah, which is like a lot of times we distill down an iPhone upgrade to that when they've actually made a lot of changes. But this is legitimately just those two things.
Yeah.
Colors and USB-C. Unless they decided not to tell us, but they would figure out a way to tell us how exciting all these changes were to it if it changed nothing on the consumer side. So yeah, they've really only changed those small things in the AirPods Max, which is pretty funny. But one of the big ones I thought that I wasn't fully expecting was that AirPods 4 have brought active noise canceling. And the reason is because AirPods Pro 2 now feel like way less valuable.
Definitely. Definitely. Like, and that's, if you look at the whole tenor of this event, really, there's a little bit of it. They close the gap on some of these things in terms of, is it worth it to upgrade or not? Yeah, I'd say that. I'd argue that's even true about the iPhone. Like, you could say like, oh, like the regular 16s give me a lot of these features, right? Essentially all the Apple Intelligence features, the dedicated camera button and all the features that come along with that. Then plus all it's 4 cameras in 2 or whatever, however you want to think about it, right? So you're getting a lot more functionality out of the cameras. So it kind of puts you in this little weird zone of, you can almost make 2 arguments for it. It's like, and I'm sure different people out there will make them both. They'll say things like, both with the AirPods and with the iPhones, it's, oh, this thing has almost everything of the more expensive one. I'm going to save $200. Or they're going to say, oh, it's only $200 more. I'll get the better one. And I think it's going to really depend on your budget and what's going on in your life, right? But it's really, Apple's product line has really collapsed over time in a lot of different ways. If you look at, there's a very old Apple presentation with Steve Jobs, and it's with him laying out, he puts up like a 4-quadrant kind of graph, and it says like consumer, pro, mobile, desktop. And it shows that we have MacBooks, and then we have MacBook Pros, and it actually might be PowerBooks now that I think about it. It might be in the Power PC era. And then he goes, and then we have the iMac, and then we have Mac Pros. So it's showing like, oh, like this very clear differentiation in the product line.
Yeah.
And now you look, iPads, a lot of the sameness across that in terms of functionality. iPhones, not a lot of the sameness. And now, with these AirPod things, it's, well, for one, who's buying the baseline AirPods?
Yeah.
That's crazy, because it's the same thing without noise cancellation. Is it $40, $50 cheaper?
It's $50 cheaper, yeah.
That's $50 is a no-brainer for that feature, right? So that's maybe not a surprise from this event for me, but at least like made me start thinking about, how is Apple looking at these things and what do their numbers look like, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they must have data that shows that, oh, that $200 difference in the phones from the baseline to the Pro matters. And like, we definitely, like it, we see that we move more units like this, and maybe it matters in the way that we convince people to upgrade to the Pro models, because it's not like it costs Apple $200 more to make that Pro. Like, it could probably cost them $20 more to make that Pro, something ridiculously small, right? So yeah, like that was, I think, the kind of takeaway for me, if we're talking about surprises on this event, is just, oh, this kind of like sameness throughout the product line, and it really becoming more just a style decision in a lot of ways, and just, I got a little bit extra money this month, or my budget's a little tighter, and that's it.
Yeah, I even feel that way with the Apple Watch. We had, leading into this event, you had talked about how you always go stainless steel on Apple Watches, and I have the aluminum one, and your argument is basically the heaviness feels more like a watch, and also the design. It's actually works with different outfits and stuff. It isn't just like, oh, here's my sport watch that I'm wearing with a suit or whatever. But now that they made the jet black aluminum, it's like got that shiny thing in the cheaper version, and it's like, do I need to pay $200 extra for the shiny Apple Watch?
Yeah.
Maybe not. So yeah, they're doing that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, especially because the titanium is not going to be as shiny as the stainless steel, and it's not going to weigh as much. It's 20% less according to Apple. So now it's like, oh, like maybe the shiny aluminum is going to feel more premium in a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah, it could, and obviously it's the same functionality. But yeah, the difference in AirPods with noise cancellation now, it's $179, so $180 versus $250 for AirPods Pro, and essentially, when you think about it, it's rubber ear tips are the difference.
Yeah.
There are a couple things. I think it has better Find My features. It has like the loop on the case, so you can put a strap in, and then they say 2 times better active noise cancellation. So it will be probably noticeably better.
Which I suspect is all because of the rubber ear tips, just sealing off the sound better. You know, like the rubber ear tips are really what's making that work better. Yeah.
Yeah, but when you boil it down, it's going to be like, wait, do I want to pay, what is that, $70 more for rubber ear tips? I don't know. And so that's kind of leading us to whatever this next Apple event is going to be. There's rumors about what we already expect to get from things like M4 MacBooks, but I think AirPods Pro 3 could be something we get in the future here, because they kind of need...
You think before the end of this year?
End of this year? I don't know. Maybe not.
I'm like, this is a bold claim here, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, it's next on the chopping block here. Yeah, it's next on the chopping block, the presentation block, whatever you want to call it, right? Yeah.
They need a reason for us to pay $70 more on paper, because I bet if you try AirPods 4 with active noise cancellation, then try AirPods Pro 2 with it, you'll be like, oh, that's maybe worth $70. But on paper, it's like, wait, it has all the same features. Why would I upgrade? Right. And obviously there's those hearing aid features as well, and the hearing test. There's definitely still stuff, but I think AirPods Pro 3 are going to need to come. They're going to need to figure out some ways to get people more on board to pay more, and maybe they'll even make it even more pro to where they raise the price to $299. Who knows?
that's the gotcha right there.
Yeah.
They're like, actually, we made it even better, and it's $50 more.
Yeah, of course. But one product that was definitely missing from this event is the Apple Watch SE 3. So they talked a lot about Apple Watch Series 10 and Ultra 2 in the new finish, but they didn't talk about what we were expecting for a cheaper Apple Watch. And that could be just to put all the focus on this new version, get people to buy the more expensive one before they release a cheaper one. But the SE 3 is supposed to be cheaper than the current one because it's going to have a plastic housing, and it's still going to be great quality and everything. But it's for people that want the SE, want a cheaper watch, and then they're especially going to make colors geared towards kids, is the rumor here.
And kid-like adults, presumably. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think this rumor is dead for the rest of the year. It would be very unlikely for them to talk about all this Apple Watch lineup during this event, and then in the October event being, oh, and by the way, we've got this other Apple Watch. Probably not happening. So this feels like the spring at the soonest. Like Apple usually does maybe like a March or April event. Usually, a lot of times that's iPad, you know, but they might throw it in there, or this might just be on the back burner for another year.
Yeah, definitely. So that basically leaves like 2 products, iPad and Macs. Yeah. So first, for Macs, we are expecting M4 MacBooks and Macs across the line to come. Even just earlier today, for a second, I was going to research what is the trade-in value of my current computer. Maybe I should get a Mac Studio to replace it in my studio. And then I immediately went, oh, no, I have to wait for M4 because that's supposed to come.
That's crazy.
And it's supposed to come across the entire lineup.
You should maybe listen to this podcast. I feel like we talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
You should.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, just take your own advice here, man. It'd be crazy to upgrade. Don't buy a Mac right now. That's nuts. Like, and this is easy money, right? That they're absolutely going to upgrade the whole line to M4s. The cool thing, I think, is that chance for that new Mac Mini design. I think that is going to happen in October. I think that is going to be a thing. That feels Like it's a product line that's ripe for a major refresh. That feels like a great thing to be Apple's kind of flagship Mac thing for the holidays. The thing that's going to move units for the holiday season for the Mac. So yeah, like that's the biggest surprise I think still out there. That's a possibility before the end of the year. Nothing else is going to be very exciting. Yeah, it's M4 on a MacBook that doesn't really change the design of it, makes it whatever 15% faster or whatever they're going to call it. Cool, but no one's going to be excited about that. I'm hoping for that. I'm rooting for that. Not that I really need it, but I do just want to see it, and I just love new things, man. And I love Apple. Like when it's supposedly this, for you guys that don't know, this design is going to be closer to like an Apple TV style thing, so smaller size, much smaller size, and so this could be a new kind of one of those big leaps in Apple's kind of design language and what they do, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. I hope it happens. I guess we'll see in another month or so.
And I wouldn't be surprised the M4 if they already go kind of in on Apple Intelligence like they just did with this iPhone event. A lot of the focus at the event was on Apple Intelligence, but using a lot of future language, saying it will be able to do this. The iPhone 16 will be able to do this, because they can't say it does this, because at launch it cannot do these things, because they're holding it for at least a month. But if we're talking on October event for M4 Max, they can absolutely say this has the brand new M4 chip designed from the ground up for Apple Intelligence, and those features are actually, some of them are delivered today.
Absolutely. We're going to see a lot like we saw today, except for the Mac OS side. And it's like, here's all the Apple Intelligence features in the Mac OS. And if you offer that new form factor and that new computer, what you can kind of get is whatever the people out there who are still hanging on to Intel Macs, right? Which is certainly, there's a lot of people out there like that. Or people who have maybe cheaper PCs, because that's always been the appeal of the Mac Mini. It's kind of like, oh, keep your monitor, keep your keyboard, keep your mouse, everything the same. Don't worry about it at all. Just plug in this Mac, and then all of a sudden you're in the Mac system. And I think that's going to be very appealing to a lot of people. Like, especially if you're running kind of an old desktop machine. I picture more of like the family computer kind of people, not the people with like crazy gaming rigs and stuff like that, right? But like kind of the general purpose Mac, people who maybe have older iMacs, like older like aluminum iMacs. And so it lets people get into the Apple ecosystem. Presumably is going to let them get all these flashy new Apple Intelligence features and be in this compact, cool, hopefully affordable, cheap design. That's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And supposed to come to that, the Mac Studio, the MacBooks, the iMac. Potentially we would see I think 30-inch iMac is the rumor.
We'll see. That one I put on I would give that one lower odds, but we'll see. That'd be cool too.
Yeah, but this is also, not only is this rumored to be their refresh cycle, but it's also just kind of expected because the iPad Pro already has the M4. Yeah. You are rocking an M4 currently.
I have the most advanced computer Apple makes in my M4 iPad. So,
exactly.
Yeah, Apple's really, they're going to refresh the whole line. And there's no brainer.
Yeah, and the great news there is obviously you can get the brand new M4, but also immediately M3s are going to get that much cheaper, and all the M chips are just so incredible, the performance compared to an Intel computer. So even if you're coming from a couple years old Mac before they went to Apple Silicon, if you upgrade to an M3 that's discounted now because they came out with a new one, it's going to be a huge upgrade for you.
And all the M series chips are Apple Intelligence compatible, right? So you're not on the Mac side. It's a lot different than it is on the iPhone, iPad side, in that essentially only the most recent generation is going to support it. Yeah. On the Mac side, you're looking at the last 4 years, like when the first M1 Macs come out, right? So like there's a lot of Macs are going to be ready for Apple Intelligence.
Yeah. So in addition to computers, we have iPads, and they just recently did do the iPad Pro refresh and the Air, but we are still waiting on the basic iPad and the iPad Mini. And you were talking about iPhone or just Apple lineups earlier, and how they've kind of condensed it, or they've kind
of smudging together a little.
Yeah. iPads is one of those that I feel is super odd, because the base iPad's a great price, but then the iPad Mini is weirdly kind of like more expensive than that, I think. And then the iPad Air seems like the iPad you should get, and they now have the big screen size for that. But then there's the Pro for Pros, and when they upgrade the iPad Mini 7 and the iPad 11, I think they're going to probably add Apple Intelligence and all this stuff. And again, it's just that merging of like, which one do I get?
Well, that's like how are they gonna? Yeah, like especially the most egregious one is a baseline iPad versus an iPad Air.
Yeah.
Right, like who is the person going for that baseline iPad? I think it's a very small subsection of the consumers, right? It's
Or it feels like schools and stuff like that.
And schools, governments, and businesses. That's really that's who's buying these things, and I think that's why Apple keeps it alive.
Yeah,
because it's people. It's enterprise level kind of people buying in huge numbers. They need 600 tablets or something. So yeah, that's what's going on with that, I think.
Speaking of new chips, did you hear about the new SIP in the Apple Watch Series 10?
A thing that I had to look up to make sure he wasn't mispronouncing it.
Yeah.
I was like, SIP, I was like, okay, that's definitely some kind of acronym that I don't know.
It is System in Package.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah. And basically, they talked about this delivering better voice isolation and stuff, the S10 SIP in the new Apple Watch. And actually, one thing that did surprise me about the new Apple Watch is like they focused on the speaker.
Yeah, so you can like listen to podcasts through your Apple Watch. What fresh hell is this? It's like
I guess you would need to be someone who has an Apple Watch, but probably has a cellular Apple Watch. So you're willing to pay up for the cellular Apple Watch, and you don't have AirPods.
And you're gonna walk around like this all day?
Yeah.
Like what? This is.
I guess it's.
Are you or what? To go back to my fresh hell comment, I can see people just playing their music through it as they're walking around. So not only do I have to listen to their music, I have to listen to it through a terrible tiny speaker.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that was an interesting one. That surprised me at this event. I'm just, curious to go through all the surprises and see what surprised you at this Apple event, because we had stuff we weren't expecting and stuff that we're still waiting on here. So when it came to this event, what surprised you overall? Because we had a lot of rumors coming into this.
This is a surprise for me, and a pleasant surprise. I was actually happy to see this, and seems obvious now, and maybe it's not even a big deal to a lot of people, but I think it's going to become a bigger deal. And that is making that camera capture button a multimodal AI activator. I was like, I mean, it obviously makes sense. I mean, it's the obvious answer to do. This isn't like a crazy thing, right? I'm just glad they did it. Something they kind of brush by, but if you watch, talk about it a little, and if you watch some of the graphics they show it, is that third-party access to that button, right? Like they showed Snapchat operating, using those controls or whatever, and then using that button in a multimodal AI way to take a picture of a thing and then send that to ChatGPT and Google is what they used in the example.
Yeah.
Presumably that's going to be other things we'll be able to do as well. I was like, yes, yes, this is it, right? This is what we've been. This is the only like feature on there that I felt was like, I don't think this is designed for the ground up. I think they've had this button on there for a while, and they were like, oh, let's make that the AI button. And if you look at all these kind of AI dedicated products that have been out, the R1, R1 Rabbit R1, that's what that thing was.
Humane Pin.
Yeah, Humane Pin. There's been a couple other things out there. And this is like Apple going like, oh, we've got that already, right? Like it's like, oh, like here's that thing. We just put it on the phone for you.
Yeah, it's a button on the phone.
It's a button on the phone. Boom. We did like the same thing that everyone said when they made these dedicated hardware things. They're like, oh, like you guys are dead in the water. The second Apple just adds a button that does this.
Yeah,
and that's what they've done. And so, I like the ease of which it seems to. It feels like it's going to be natural. It's just sitting right there. You do whatever the press combination is going to be to activate it, long press or short press. I forgot which one actually does the AI. And
I think it's long press.
Long press does the AI, and a short press does the camera, I think, or something. But it's like, oh, like that's opening that window into the AI LLM world for everyone. Like you talk about something that's going to push AI and generative AI and LLMs forward. It's the millions of people who are about to have that technology at a physical buttons press away.
Yeah.
People who probably watch this, and me and you, right? We're like, oh, well, yeah, you can just download GPT right now and you can make it a shortcut on your lock screen. Like it's like, oh, but it's a whole nother level when all of a sudden it's a physical thing that's there and people are like, oh, what does this do?
Yeah.
Like that, what does this do factor changes the world, right? Like it's like so much like advances in technology has kind of happened because of that, because it's this like instant gratification of seeing something new and cool. So for me, that was the biggest surprise, and I think the biggest win for Apple here in this whole event.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think going into this event, we had the rumors about the camera button.
Yeah.
We've known about that for like months at this point.
Yeah.
But I think we thought it was only going to be on the Pro model. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was a big driver. Once they recognized the AI integration and how fundamental it could be, that was a big driver for them to put it in all the models, including the base model.
Absolutely. Great point right there, right? That this is going to be on every iPhone model. So, I mean, we're like literally tens of millions of people, hundreds of millions of people, before it's all over with this cycle, are going to have that button that gets them into probably, for most of these people, their first time ever using one of these advanced AIs. And what I love about it is it forces you to use it in a way that is cool.
Yeah.
When you just put a LLM chat window in front of someone, it's always lame. It's always like, because people don't even realize what it can do. And then when you're not actually doing something, it's hard to make a demo of it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, I'm not even in the middle of something right now. What could this possibly help me with when I'm just showing it to someone? But this, it forces you to use it in a practical way, right? Like it forces you to take a picture of the thing and then get the menu like it did in the demo, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, that's rad. I'm excited.
Yeah, the other big reason to add that button too is future proofing for when this iPhone 16 is the cheapest one they sell. So if you look at the lineup, they're still selling like the 14. So in 3 years or so, the 16 will be the cheapest one, I guess, above an SE. And it has that button. So all the way up the entire lineup through their newest phones, you'll have an immediate AI dedicated multimodal button. I think that was probably a bigger driver here. And then, of course, it's great. It's a camera capture button. All people get these extra bonuses.
Yeah, all the practical stuff on it works right. And that's kind of the genius of it, too, is making it that same button that's activates the thing that probably most people use the most on their phone after, I don't know, Safari or something like that. And that's the camera, right? Like, so like people activate that thing all the time. This is a great, and I think an elegant solution to not only improve regular photography, but to throw in that AI aspect.
Definitely. So we'll see at their next event, which probably will happen in October, what products they're going to bring, but then also that might start a new cycle of Apple announcement events where they talk about the latest Apple Intelligence features being delivered, which that's pretty interesting.
That's perfect timing. So we'll see.